Good morning, everyone. I'm Noel McCluney, and I will be presenting service today along with Pam Summons. Lisa Merrill Price and Kevin McCluney are providing technical assistance today. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. We are glad that we can keep in touch and support our community, even if we can't be together in person. Please be aware we are recording this service and it will be posted on our Facebook and YouTube pages. We greet you today as you join us in a wider search for truth and purpose. In this quest, may we encounter one another with open hearts and minds. May we inspire each other to consider new questions and seek deeper meaning. And may we cultivate wisdom and compassion. Let all who join us see a welcome face, hear a kind word, and find comfort in this community. May all that we do and say here today help us be a force for positive change in the world. Please take a moment to think of all your friends at MVUUC. Greet them with a comment in the chat box, and remember that you can still reach out via email, phone, social media, video chat, lots of options. Physical distancing does not need to mean emotional distancing. Let us support one another. Visitors, we are a diverse group with varying interests and beliefs. Our services are varied in format, tone, and topic. We encourage you to view several services to gain a good understanding of our congregation. If you'd like to receive our weekly email newsletter, please email us at news@mvuuc.org. MVUUC remains committed to supporting our members and friends during this difficult time. For that reason, we are coordinating assistance with groceries, phone calls, and other needs. If this sounds like something that would be helpful to you, please send an email to sac@mvuuc.org with your name and what kind of assistance you would like to request. Now is the time for announcements. Announcements can be sent ahead of time to services@mvuuc.org to be read. If you have an important announcement now, you can raise your hand by clicking the raise hand button, which I believe is in the reactions menu. Then we will announce your name and turn on your mic and camera so you can make your announcement yourself. Lisa, are there any announcements today?
Yes, there are a couple of announcements. We have an announcement from Megan Rancier. Our March collection drive will benefit the Cocoon Shelter in Bowling Green. Every week, the Cocoon puts a list of most needed items on their Facebook page. Items may be dropped off at the MVUUC building on Sunday, March 28th from 1 to 3 p.m. You can also order items directly from their Amazon wish list. And if you do send something from the wish list, Megan asks that you send an email to her at sac@mvuuc.org to tell Megan what you've ordered, because she'd like to kind of keep track of what we've donated so we can let people know at the end of the drive what we did. There's also a link in the chat box for the wish list for the Cocoon, or the Cocoon website, sorry. I have an announcement from Winnie Rex. The discussion group, formerly Spirit in Practice, will meet in 2 weeks on Sunday, March 21st at 1 p.m. on Zoom. We will be discussing 2 possible programs for use in our continuing discussion. Please contact Winnie Rex at winrexx@gmail.com, and that email address will be in the chat box if you would like to join the meeting to decide the direction of the group in the future. And I believe those are our only announcements.
And then just one, I know I say this periodically, but do make sure that you're reading our newsletter. There's a lot of really neat stuff in there. Some neat things about composting now in BG, the BLM awards, how we were able to raise money, and what they did allowed us to make a little advertisement. So a lot of neat stuff in there. So make sure you're reading that newsletter. Okay. Oh, that's me, sorry. All right, please join me in reading the words for the chalice lighting that appear as a comment in the chat box. Let the kindling of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of love, of peace, of hope. And now we will hear Spirit of Life.
My selection today is from Swami Vivekananda. Maybe you can see that. And it's in his book, Telling Stories. And the title of this particular selection is Two Approaches. In America, there was a great agnostic, a very noble man, a very good man, and a very fine speaker. He lectured on religion, which he said was of no use. Why bother our heads about other worlds? He employed this simile: we have an orange here, and we want to squeeze all the juice out of it. I met him once and said, I agree with you entirely. I have some fruit, and I too want to squeeze out the juice. Our difference lies in the choice of the fruit. You want an orange, and I prefer a mango. You think it is enough to live here and eat and drink and have a little scientific knowledge, but you have no right to say that that will suit all tastes. Such a conception is nothing to me. If I had only to learn how an apple falls to the ground or how an electric current shakes my nerves, I would commit suicide. I want to understand the heart of things, the very kernel itself. Your study is the manifestation of life. Mine is life itself. My philosophy says you must know that and drive out from your mind all thoughts of heaven and hell and all other superstitions, even though they exist in the same sense that this world exists. I must know the heart of this life, its very essence, what it is, not only how it works and what are its manifestations. I want the why of everything. I leave the how to children. As one of your countrymen said, while I am smoking a cigarette, if I were to write a book, it would be The Science of Cigarette. It is good and great to be scientific. God bless them in their search. But when a man says that that is all, he is talking foolishly, not caring to know the raison d'etre of life, never studying existence itself. I may argue that all your knowledge is nonsense without a basis. You are studying the manifestations of life, and when I ask you what life is, you say you do not know. You are welcome to your study, but leave me to mine. Before I begin my reflection, let us quiet ourselves. Please sit up in your chair, or if you like, Sit on the floor in the lotus position. Close your eyes, relax. Take a little breath. I invite you to release any tension anywhere in your body, starting from the tip of your toes, going to the top of your head. Imagine any tension melting away like melting butter. Now, take in a deep breath, breathing in peace, and breathe out restlessness. Do this 3 times. Now take a moment and start breathing softly, so softly that if you put a thread in front of your nose, it would hardly move. Concentrate on your breath, but don't breathe so softly that you hurt any of your internal organs. Just breathe softly and concentrate on your breath for a few seconds. Now I invite you to point to yourself. Most likely you pointed to a place on your chest. So now, still relaxed, start your imagination. Picture a most beautiful garden. Picture a most beautiful door. And in that place on your chest to which you pointed, imagine yourself facing the door and invite it to open. Step through the opening and walk into a most beautiful garden. A beautiful garden you can imagine or remember. It is peaceful and full of fragrances, warmth, and sunlight. Now, as you listen to my reflection, if you can stay in this garden, if you can stay in this garden, try to be there and enjoy the garden as if you were a child. Now I'll start my reflection and you can stay right where you are in your beautiful garden. I want to share with you my story. The story of how I came to my spiritual path as a disciple of Sri Chinmoy, my spiritual master, who inspired people across the globe with his many activities and contributions. A musician and composer of music and songs, an author of thousands of books, an athlete who initiated ultra running competitions, a weightlifter, a poet, an artist, and a global ambassador of peace. Initially, it wasn't my choice to believe in God or follow a spiritual path. I was probably an agnostic, but my crying heart soon pushed me to discover my soul's mission on its eternal journey. What was the catalyst that set off the chain of events leading me to this discovery? In 1990, my mother passed away. Then my mother-in-law died 4 months later. When we returned from that funeral, my husband told me he didn't want to be married anymore. Tired of trying to maintain a facade, I agreed, but was terrified to live on my own, rearing my children by myself. In the ensuing months, I lost my house, my comfortable income, and was left with the remnants of a tattered life. It was as if a tsunami had wiped away the life I knew. Thankfully, some dear friends, among them several Unitarians, rallied around me, and I started discovering the beauty of spirituality. Most of it was kind of New Age. I had always loved nature and had been attracted to Native American stories too. So it was natural to delve into Native American spirituality. My friends taught me about the strength of positive energy and the importance of throwing out negative energy and the black cloud surrounding me. During that time, one of my friends started meditating with this woman who either flew in or drove to Toledo from Chicago every other weekend to offer, all capital letters, free meditation classes. She said, there's this man in New York who believes that meditation is everyone's birthright and no one should ever have to pay to learn to meditate. At the time, free caught my attention, as well as the thought of finding some relief from my constant terror and worry. In the meantime, I noticed a significant change in my friend, and I told her I wanted to join her meditation classes. Sadly, she said I couldn't. I'd have to wait until February when her instructor, a disciple of Sri Chinmoy, would return to start another set of beginning meditation classes at the common space. For 3 months, I waited anxiously for the new set of classes to begin so I could maybe get some of the inner peace that my friend was obviously developing through her meditative practice. Finally, February arrived and I attended the first class. For the first time in my adult life, I began to feel that something greater than the human mind actually existed. During the second class, I kept looking at the leader, thinking I'd known her from somewhere before. Of course, I hadn't met her in this lifetime. I knew, indeed, it wasn't until much later in my spiritual journey that I began to suspect that we had known each other in a past life. Then our instructor invited us to focus on Sri Chinmoy's transcendental picture. Immediately, I knew this was real. And I felt incredible peace and knew I was finally home. Thus began my spiritual journey. But not all was rosy for me with this church. At the time, there was a very strong group of outspoken atheists and secular humanists who seemed to think we all believed as they did. And at least one or two of these people made it clear there was only room for their secular humanists in this congregation. I had to leave. Previous to my encounter with the true spiritual master, I would have been fine with this. But now I knew differently because I had experiences that showed me an inner reality that exists beyond the mind. Over the years, between the early 90s and when I retired from teaching in 2010, not having spiritual friends here in Toledo area didn't matter so much. My life had been completely dominated by my career in rearing 2 talented daughters. When Mary left for college in the mid-90s and then Sarah in 1999, neither ever to return home again. In fact, Sarah moved to Europe where she has lived in various countries ever since, and Mary is in New York now, still teaching, offering meditation classes, meeting with disciples from other parts of the world, and traveling occupied my time and attention. Once I retired, however, my life changed. How was I going to make friends? Then I re-met Barb Applebaum, whom I had known here at the church during my agnostic days. We connected immediately, as Barb often did with people. She really wanted to get in touch with her spiritual self. I offered her and others classes in meditation, and we explored our inner realities together. It was thus that we came to do a couple of services at MVUUC, and then one for the Universalist Church in Lyons. So how could I reconcile my spiritual life with this church? It was pretty easy. The congregation over the years had changed a bit. It felt more welcoming and more accepting of different ways of worshiping. One of the things that made it so natural was the philosophy of Sri Chinmoy, that Sri Chinmoy teaches, acceptance of all true spiritual paths. His basic tenet in this regard is that to make this world a better place, we have to start with ourselves. In his book, Yoga and the Spiritual Life, he comments further on the role of spirituality and religion. If I say that my religion is God, there is every possibility that you may misunderstand me. But if I say that my religion is truth with a capital T, immediately you will see eye to eye with me. Let me be a little clearer. If I say that my religion is Lord Krishna and you must accept him, your eyes will emit fire. But if I say that my religion is truth, again with a capital T, you will jump up and say, well, so is mine. Now, instead of saying you must accept my religion, if I say, let us accept the universal truth, you will cry out, already accepted. Thank you, my friend. So looking at the now 8 guiding principles of our faith, my coming to this congregation made perfect sense. Additionally, guess what the first place was in Manhattan to welcome Sri Chinmoy to give classes and talks? A Universalist church in New York City. He always had great respect for the UU's approach to religious freedom. In this same work, this is what he said. I am deeply proud to be here at the Universalist Church, for my heart voices forth the truth that the religion which is universal is the core of all religions. And the realization of the universal religion is not the monopoly of any particular person. Any individual, irrespective of caste, creed, and nationality, can have the realization of this universal religion if he has dynamic imagination, creative inspiration, and fulfilling aspiration to assimilate the spirit of all religions. So, what exactly do I believe? That's complicated to explain in a few words. I'll try to whittle it down to a few areas I find most important. First, this is the path of the heart. Second, there's no point in dwelling on sin. We all make mistakes and perhaps think not so good thoughts. This concept of sin we refer to as ignorance, not sin. As we meditate, we receive guidance to illumine or shine a light on these areas within ourselves that need to be transformed. No guilt. Guilt is like carrying a dead elephant on your shoulders. So, say we think ill of someone and try to change their behavior. Those of us who have sprouted some gray hairs know that doesn't work. In fact, we come to realize we need to work on our response to those irritating situations. That's called illumining our response to these problems. How do I go about that? Well, reading self-help books can help, but you can't squeeze a book and wring spiritual guidance from it. You can get ideas and try new habits. The real guidance I find has been derived from meditation, to which I dedicate every morning and evening. That is where I receive inner guidance and am pointed to places, guided to behaviors and ways to grow into a better person. Does a voice enter into me and tell me how? Well, not necessarily. Most often, though, through my actions, I find inspiration that wasn't there before. With this inner guidance, I try to live a simple and pure life, to act in accordance with God's will and manifest the divine with whatever capacity I have. I try to raise my own consciousness and, if possible, contribute to lifting the consciousness of those with whom I interact, simply by improving my own consciousness. Believe me, I'm a work in progress. That opens another subject. What is consciousness? According to Sri Chinmoy, it is the spark of life which connects each one of us with the universal life. It is the thread that puts us in tune with the universe. So, what I am learning is that if we want to make a better, more peaceful, beautiful, and healthy world, we have to start with ourselves. As UUs, I believe that's what we're about. If you had a program in your hands, you could look at the 7, now 8, principles of our faith on the back cover. How my path differs is that I add meditation and a meditative lifestyle to these guiding principles. I meditate, follow a vegetarian diet, get exercise, meet with others to meditate regularly, and do selfless service. COVID has put a monkey wrench into some of my plans on this area. Before I started meditating with the spiritual master, I was really unhappy, distraught, and had no idea who I was, truly. Now I'm learning to be me, a better me, I hope. Today, this is who I am. I am a seeker of truth. I am a seeker of hope. Why am I a seeker? To follow the will of my Lord Supreme on my soul's eternal journey. I invite you now to return to your inner heart garden. This is where you really live. In times of stress, you can go there to find relief from issues from which you need respite. Go in peace. May it be so.
Thank you, Pam, for your reflection. This is a time when we like to say a few words about how the service relates to our UU principles. Pam, already did it quite nicely, integrated into her reflection. But just a few words from me. When I think of meditation and the journey Pam has been on, I'm brought to think about our fourth principle. It's pretty clear: a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And I think that's really what Pam has shared with us today. Also, our third principle, the acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregation. So she talked about, how it's so important for UUs to be accepting of all different truths, all different ways that we are searching. And I'm so glad that she was able to rejoin our congregation and has found that. One of my favorite parts about being UU is the inclusivity of our faith, the recognition that really no one knows the answer, and that the best thing we can do is support each other in our own unique quest for our own truth and meaning. Now more than ever, we are counting on your pledge payments and donations to help sustain and strengthen this congregation that is so important to all of us, supporting our efforts to be a community of love, truth, justice, and service. Please click on the link in the chat box, and please select the correct designation on the drop-down box when you donate. Thank you.
For the beauty gift divine to our race, so freely given, for that great, great love of thine, peace on earth and joy in heaven. Lord of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. Oh Lord of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Actually, we're going to do Extinguishing the Chalice. Please join me in reading the words for Extinguishing the Chalice that can be found in the comments in the chat box. Pretty short one. We'll say, go in peace. Namaste. After the service, we will turn on all videos and mics. Feel free to stay in Zoom and chat with your fellow MVUUC members and friends for our coffee hour. Please be patient, as turning on the cameras and mics sometimes takes a few minutes. And now we'll have our closing song.
Go with a song in your heart. Go with music in your soul. Leave with a memory of a melody. Go with a song in your heart. Go with a song in your heart. Now until we meet again. The joy of music is our gift to you. Go with a song in your heart. Live with the memory of a melody. Go with a song. Go with a song. Go with a song in your heart.
This is the end of our service, but again, please stay for our virtual coffee hour that follows.